We have Debra Cairns, Managing Director at Net Defence, whose expertise lies in finance, cyber, and IT. Before joining Net Defence, Debra worked for multinational consumer goods corporation, big mouthful there, Procter& Gamble, gaining over 19 years of finance and IT experience that she's brought to her current role. And she's about to tell us whether humans are your weakest link or your greatest asset. Debra, floor is yours.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay? It's like a silent disco. You're all going to start dancing. All right, thanks very much for joining me today. I'm Debra Cairns. I'm the MD of Net Defence. We're an IT, telephony and cyber security business. We aim to protect and support and help your organisations become strong from a cyber resilience point of view. I'm also an ardent supporter of STEM and looking particularly to get women in tech. It's great to see so many women in the space. We're normally a huge minority, so it's great. I also recently joined the board of the North East Business Resilience Centre, which is a police-led not-for-profit supporting SMEs and helping them to reduce their cyber risk. It's a free membership, so if you are south of the border, then I would encourage you all to look it up. Today, I really want to take some time in talking to you about the human element of cybersecurity. Many organisations have taken great strides to really strengthen their cybersecurity, their posture, recognising the risk. It's no longer if, it's when, and we're doing all these great things from a technology point of view. However, we're really overlooking an area which is human, and we all employ some great humans in our organisation. A recent report released by Verizon said that 68% of all cyber attacks that have happened in the previous 12 months were involved non-human element of 68%. So the cyber activity that was happening there was predominantly from a human element. In the same period, the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, said that 60% of UK data breaches were down to a human action from inside your organisation. We really employ some smart people, some great leaders, great problem solvers, critical thinkers. So how are the statistics so high? And that's what I really want to have a look at today and talk a little bit more. So let's talk about some stats. So there's two reports that I use the most when I'm having these conversations. One is the state of the fish. It's in its 10th year. It's a great report. It's a global report, but brings it right down to EMEA and down to the UK. And the other is the Cyber Breach Service survey, which comes out through GCHQ and NCSC. In the last 12 months, so in 2023, 50% of businesses and 32% of charities had reported a breach or a cyber attack in that period. It increases up to 70% for medium-sized businesses and 66% of high-income charities. Email remains the most common attack vector used. If you think about how many emails we all receive a day, it's understandable that that is one of the methods that the cyber criminals are using. Phishing remains the number one way of doing it. 84% of businesses had been attacked through that vector and 83% of charities. Email impersonation or online impersonation, spoofing, is the next most common at 35% of businesses and 37% of charities. And then the final one, and the more well-known one, malware and ransomware, 17% of businesses and 37% of charities. Our employees are making choices every day and making decisions that determine whether one of these cyber attacks are going to be successful. We have to be lucky every time. The cyber criminal only needs to be lucky just once. And like all technology solutions, human-based solutions are multifaceted and layered. Cyber criminals are using psychological manipulation to get the target into a human-based reaction to get what they're after. They are using it to get your credentials, your financial information, your McDonald's secret sauce, whatever it is that has the high value in your business. They are driving human reaction to your employees to get them to make those decisions. No technology control is going to protect you from that. They're using every tool available in their arsenal to make that attack successful. Talk a little bit about some of the attack vectors and what we're seeing change. So we all know about phishing. It's been around a really long time. What's new is spear phishing. So that's where the criminal is going to spend a bit more time looking you up on the internet, seeing what you've posted on Facebook, Instagram, where you might have had holidays, LinkedIn, events you might have attended, and they're going to amass all of that information about you. And then that email that you're going to get is going to be targeted to you, about you, and it's going to feel relevant immediately when you open it. Why are they doing it? Phishing is about an 18% success rate. Spear phishing is 53% on success. So it is worth them investing that time. It's worth them getting to know you. So that email feels so genuine because it's got something in that about you that makes you resonate and start to drive those actions that they're looking for. AI and deepfakes, talked a lot today. It is the latest, greatest hot topic. Combining spear phishing and AI, the UK multinational company Arup Group, or ARUP, has just been successful in a deep fake video call. An employee in Hong Kong in January 2024 thought he was on a call, face-to-face video call with the CEO. He made 12 payments that amassed £20 million off the back of that call. He thought he was talking to the finance who was telling him, pay this bill, pay that one, 12 smaller payments, so it didn't need the extra approvals, bang, 20 million out of the organisation. So even if you are talking with who you think is a senior, they're going to much rather you want to question whether it's really them than make that 20 million payment and say sorry for it afterwards. I would always encourage, stop. Too good to be true, it is. Not sure, feels wrong, trust your gut with it, stop and back check it. No one's going to mind if it takes another hour to get that payment out. They are going to mind if that payment's gone and they can't get it back. Business email compromise is another one. So that is either spoofing up an email address that looks a lot like one you're talking with. There'll be an extra letter. They'll switch some letters around on it. Or they will have taken control of one of your supplier's emails. And it's becoming a more common method for supply chain attack. In late 2022, a gang called Crimson Snake Beck Gang, really catchy title, they went out and they specifically purchased a plethora of domains for the law sector, and they just added some extra letters, take a letter away, swap a few around, and then they mass emailed out to databases alleging to be the solicitor that you were already working with. They used legal language and they used a threat and urgency with it to drive the human reaction to, oh my God, I'm in trouble, I need to do something. And that's part of what they're really trying to push. Moving on to supply chain risk, very much considered, and it's gone from emerging to it is a current and it's a growing risk. Because all of our organisations are spending time and money in investing in technology and strengthening security posture, if you're still a target, they're going to come at you through your supply chain. If you've got a weak spot in your supply chain, it's a very easy stepping stone to get ultimately what they want. Once inside the supply chain, your technology controls are effectively rendered useless. Because if they're going to use the supplier's email, you've already been talking to them. You might have been talking to them that morning. They know all about the email communication, language, slang, what you might have been talking about yesterday, and they're going to mimic that and push it out so that they're able to immediately, you just think you're continuing a conversation you're already having. Once they're inside, they can do it in various ways. It's to get direct access to your systems. It can be to get your infrastructure, or it can be to launch a cyber attack. The attacks then come in two ways. One is direct and one is chance. Direct is they wanted you in the first place. They've got into that supply chain. Now they're coming and they want you were always the target. The other side is a chance attack. If you get into someone's supply chain and you email every person that that company has ever emailed, you are casting a huge net at that point in time. And it goes back to that. They only need to be lucky once. You need to be lucky every day, all day. Whether you're a direct target or an indirect target, the damage can be just as significant if it's your supply chain or them, their systems or yours. Particularly if you've outsourced your IT to an MSP, we're an MSP provider. If I allow someone to get into my systems, they've got your keys to your kingdom and also mine. That's why supply chain is becoming such a favourable route for attack. It really widens their ability to push these scams out in trying to get everything that they're looking for. And as I said, it really, a lot of your technology controls like email scanning, your firewall controls, they're doing a great job, but not when it comes to supply chain because it's coming from a legitimate source. If you think about how many emails you get a day, if you've been in communication with an individual and you get an email that says, this invoice hasn't been paid, or mate, would you just mind pushing that through for payment? Would you think twice about opening that attachment? If you were in an event last week and then you get one going, look at this great photo of us at this event, and you think it's coming from Sarah, who you've been talking to for the last 3 weeks, would you think twice about opening it? That's what the cyber criminal is relying on in that basis. insider action and threat. So not all threats come from outside of our own organisations, and we spend so long in putting locks and keys on the doors outside, we forget what sits inside our organisation. There are two main types of threat in this case: human error and malicious action. Back in 2015, a disgruntled employee of Morrison's supermarket who had been an auditor and was subject to disciplinary, knew he was on his way out, decided to take all the employee of current and previous employees of Morrison's supermarket, around 100,000 employee records, and sold it on the dark web. Just because he was going to get the sack. He thought that was the best action. Not his best action, because he went to prison for 8 years. But Morrison's supermarket was then targeted with a potential for being sued by all of these employees and ex-employees. They battled for 5 years to demonstrate it was a personal vendetta by this employee to not be held vicariously liable. If you are labelled with that, that opens the doors to class action, individual lawsuits. By 2020, it went all the way to the UK Supreme Court to be found not guilty. That's the level they had to fight to prove that an employee was acting of their own accord. A lot of the question around that was, well, why did you let that employee have 100,000 records when they probably only needed 500? Or if they did need it all, why did you let him keep it for all of that period of time? So it's looking at all different angles. So let's think about what your employees are saying and what the surveys are saying about what your employees want as an organisation. 71% of them took a risky action. 96% of that 71 knew they were taking a risky action. A little bit scary that they know what they're doing and they're doing it anyway. However, when you look at the reasons why, they're all things that are going to benefit your business. They are saving time. It was convenient to meet an urgent deadline, to save the company money, to achieve a revenue target, to meet performance objectives. They're not going out to do it maliciously to damage your organisation, but we're allowing them to make decisions that ultimately opens up the door for you to be exploited by cyber criminals. What I'd also say is 60% of employees don't believe cybersecurity and information security is their responsibility. They just believe it's someone else's problem. And these are the guys that are opening the emails and engaging with what's coming into your organisation and making those decisions. Looking at the risky actions that they took, number 2 is my absolute pet peeve. The first one is using a work device for personal use. Opening up, you might be on a website you shouldn't be on. Reusing and sharing a password. Please, 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 please stop this. Don't do it again. It really isn't worth it. Connecting without a VPN. Responding to a message from an unknown person. So we're saying phishing is the most common vector for attack, but employees are telling us that they're responding to these emails even when they don't know, never mind if it's spoofed or it's an intercepted communication. And the final one was accessing inappropriate websites. So talking about, looking at it a little bit wider, so we've got the attacks that are happening and how they're happening. What else do we need to be thinking about and considering? So we already know that cyber criminals are engaging with our employees in a psychological game. They're manipulating our human reactions to get their end goal. And this is where unconscious bias starts to come in. And they're using unconscious bias in their toolbox every day, yet we're not talking about unconscious bias, and we're not talking about to our employees about unconscious bias. I'm going to talk a little bit. You could talk for weeks on the topic. When I did the research, my mind was blown. But I just want to touch on some of the most common. And what's worth thinking is they're not just using one of these, they're layering them up. Curiosity effect. We are all nosy. If it's some gossip or it's a trade secret or insider information, it's pulling us in our natural kind of behaviours to explore more. Authority bias. My CEO would never send me anything dodgy. The police would never send me anything. My MP would never send anything. So you're already assuming it is correct because of where that communication came from. Optimism bias. We're optimistic that the outcome will be better than it is. So it might be a spoof job offer, or insider information again. The recency effect, playing on what's happening in the news today, what happened in the news yesterday. It's very relevant in your mind and you're more likely to engage with the topic. Hyperbolic discounting, we all love a bargain, but you know what? If it's too good to be true, it is too good to be true. But you start layering these different effects up, and it's more likely that that spoof email and that scam will play out and become true. The halo effect, positive feelings about a company and a brand. That's why Amazon is used so often. Google is used. People associate these brands as trusted brands. I communicate with them all the time. So spoofing up, you already trust the communication that you're getting from a celebrity, from a well-known restaurant, a chain. All of those things are giving us this feeling of like, oh, I can trust it. They're safe. It's okay. Loss aversion. We all want to not suffer any kind of loss. So if we're given an opportunity to avoid it, we're more likely to engage and take the action that they're asking us to take. On the opposite side, the ostrich effect. I don't want anything to do with it. So if I click this button and it goes away and I can make it go away, I'm going to click that button and I'm going to click it again. So really starting to layer those things up. And the final one is habit. Learning people's habits and behaviors. The most common time for a scam, a Monday morning and a Friday afternoon. Monday morning, I just want to get that stuff off my list so I can get to the to-do list I had on Friday. Friday afternoon, I just want to get home, the pub, the holiday, whatever you've got planned. You want that stuff gone, and we're more likely to take risky actions in those time periods. So how really do we reduce the human risk side of cybersecurity? Human behaviors and personalities all have a role to play. Again, you could deep dive into the topic for years to look at it. We just need to be aware of it, and we need to be communicating with our employees that it's not just about reading and understanding an email, understanding personalities that also will trigger it. So you've got those that think they know it all. Can't be taught anything. I'll never get caught. Really risky. On the other side, you've got those that are so terrified they just won't engage with it, they won't touch it. And you're really trying to balance in what that looks like. First thing to consider will not come as any surprise. It is about training. We need to be conscious not to overload those individuals who are terrified, won't want to look at it, don't want to engage in it. That ostrich effect, if I don't look at it, it's not a thing. We need to be looking at putting off fear, delaying it, hiding behind other priorities, and really getting bite-sized regular training. So it needs to be continuous, it needs to be regular, it needs to be short, to the point, and punchy. It needs to be a combination of online and face-to-face. Never underestimate face-to-face and being able to ask questions and engage with the topic. Make it relevant and role-specific. How somebody works in finance and how they're targeted will be very different to how somebody in tech is targeted. Legal is very different. Make sure it's relevant for their role. Include things that will help them to keep safe at home. So every October, as we go into the Christmas shopping season, our entire employees get an online safe shopping reminder of what's good and what's not. If you teach them to do it well at home, they will bring it back to the office and they will apply the same rules and things here. The other thing to think about is including accountability and reward. We won't do it if you're not held accountable. And if you don't reward, why would I bother doing it? Getting those, and it doesn't have to be money. It can just be about league tables, rewards, well done jobs. You know, those things go a really long way. The other thing to think about is phishing simulation exercises. Really good if you're trying to deal with that I'll never be caught person in your organization. Because if you catch them once, you completely change their whole thinking about it. But by teaching them what it looks like, how to get caught, start with the easy and start ramping it up so they're more and more difficult. They don't want to get caught. They don't want to be on the bad list. So what will happen is every email they get, they think it's coming from you, and they're looking at it before they click, before they engage. And again, it's just teaching those better habits in their home life. Share organizational results and statistics. If we are hit as a cyber, it is a crime. We are a victim of a crime, but we have historically just hidden it and we don't want to talk about it. But it is happening. By sharing those statistics and sharing how many of our technical controls catch it, by sharing good news stories of Dan, who works for me at the front, he's going to get picked on again. He reports that potential scam. He gets an email from his managing director, from the head of IT, saying, well done, thank you for reporting it. And it's that whole zero blame culture is the last thing. If you have in your organization a complete zero blame culture, they will tell you everything. If there is even the smallest potential they're going to get into trouble, they won't. It's like dealing with a toddler at home. If you positively reinforce them, they will tell you everything. If you punish anybody in any way, that's it. The doors are closed. They will delete that email. They pretend they didn't click on it. And unfortunately, it happens so quick and it spreads so fast across your organization. You need fast reporting. And I would encourage you all to embrace that no blame culture. Costs you nothing, which is rare from a cybersecurity point of view. So take it back and make that change. Finally, what's motivating them to make a priority? They're asking us to make it easy. 94% said, make it easy and I'll do it. 88% said, give me training. 87% give me a reward for doing the training. And 85% show me that senior leaders are doing the training. In my parent group, there are 8 managing directors and we all do the training and we all get listed as to whether we did the training or we didn't. You cannot expect your organization to do something your senior leadership is not embracing and doing. So how else can you defend? Human, add a phishing report button if you don't have it already in your email. Mine is a red fish that sits at the top. It's as simple as one click. The email is removed and sent to IT. We're not spreading it around. We're not forwarding it. They're going to look at it. They're going to take the action. It's quick. It's easy. It's what they're asking for. Limit access to your data, going back to that audit there in Morrison's. Least privilege on a time basis and review it regularly. Implement timing limits for wide access, but auto remove it. Do not expect a human to go back and remember to take it away. And then finally, just some technical controls. So email filtering is great, but you need to invest time in it and make sure that you've got one that is working for your organization. Ensure you've got authentication and email protection in place. That's like a customs clearance. If you arrive at customs in a foreign country, they're going to check your passport, probably take a fingerprint, maybe a biometric eye print. That is the same for your email. Before it gets in the organization, they're doing those checks. If it doesn't pass those checks, it's never going to get into your organization. Implement continuous patch management, 2-factor. Great for also things like keeping your kids off your Amazon Prime at home because they can't get access to it without that code. So if nothing else, put it there, but bring it to work. Then you're not even, if you lose a laptop, if you've got 2-factor, they can't do anything with it. It really reduces your risk perspective. Ensure your data is backed up but stored away from your systems. If it's stored somewhere else and you suffer a ransomware attack, they can't get that backup, which means you can recover. If it's on your network, they will take that along with everything else. And ensure you've tested that you can recover from a backup. We've all had that moment when we get a new mobile phone and we plug it in and it goes, you can't have that backup because it's corrupted. Exactly the same with all of the data that you hold on your servers. And finally, look at certifications. Some great ones out there: Cyber Essentials, Cyber Assurance, ISO 27001. They're not as expensive as you think they might be, but they are great for strengthening. So Cyber Essentials, tech controls, most common cyber threats. Cyber Assurance is looking at your people, your policies and your processes. And ISO 27001 is going up one level again. What's great is they fit together. So it's taking you on a journey that can get you if you're aspiring to have 27001, but you can stop at any point in there. And that's kind of all I have to say. So I hope you found it useful.
Thanks, Debra. Do we have any questions for Debra? Please raise your hand and we'll pass you a mic.
I think they're bringing a microphone. Yay. I'm like, do I need headphones?
Oh, yes, you will actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Thank you for that. That was really good. Just one of the things that you said that you hated and that you sort of said that we should avoid is using personal laptops for work. How do we kind of get away from that then in a world where everybody's working remotely and people are using personal devices for work stuff? So
If you are, if you've got to bring your own device policy, that's what you need. That's a starting point for using personal devices. It's something that you should avoid if you can, but in a world where technology costs money, I totally accept that in some organizations you are using your personal laptop. It needs to be patched. It needs to be up to date. It needs to be a supported laptop so all of your security vulnerabilities are being updated. When you're working from home, please go home and change the default password on your Wi-Fi router because it is sitting with your provider in a database. Change it. You can do really smart things. YouTube help you to do it. I promise. I'm not that techie. It's not that hard. But what you can also do is do a separation at home as well. So you can protect your bandwidth as well so your kids can't steal it on their Xbox. and your work stuff is separate, even though it's on the same router at home. But it's really about hygiene. You see, when you get that update on your iPhone, you get that update on your laptop, do it. Particularly now, Apple are so security conscious. They're telling you now it's for a security update. It's always been for a security update. They just thought you needed a new emoji to get you to do it in the past. So do those updates and make sure it's a relatively new laptop and it's supported.
Yeah, what demographics are kind of the slowest to proceed to these new like problems?
How do you mean in from an organizational point of view?
Yeah, like which demographics in the organization are going to be the slowest to like safeguards to new like problems that are like developing?
Do you know what? It's probably not what you think it is. So if I look at my kind of parent company, and there's 8 sister companies that all sit together. When I first started talking about cyber risk, I thought it was going to be the dinosaurs, which I'm sliding towards. So I'm going to be gentle. Actually, that demographic engages a lot quicker because they're already, they don't know. The hardest demographic to play over is, I know it all already, you'll never get me. And believe me, we go get them through phishing and spoofing, because once you catch one, that's it. It tends to be that demographic. And kind of the middle piece, like young people coming into your organization have been living and breathing this their whole life. It's not new. The older end of your organization are terrified and don't know what to do, so want to engage. It's that kind of middle of the road, and I'm not going to give a number on that because you could offend an entire room by saying that, but that middle piece is the hardest to engage with, and the ego arrogant ones in particular.
With the rise in AI and tools like GPT, I assume that
The big
phishing
bad ugly
exactly.
sister of ChatGPT, my favorite.
I
Yeah,
assume that phishing emails are going to get extremely difficult
they are.
to identify. How do you think we're going to be able to combat that?
They are incredibly difficult. It's not a foreign prince who's going to give you, you're too young to remember those emails. Give me some money and I'll make you a millionaire. They're not misspelt anymore. They're not, the grammar's right on them. So all of the flags that would have been there, it is about training and phishing simulation, because there are still some pointers that are there. Not so much if they come through your supply chain, but if it's a cold email or it's a spoofed email, it's really taking time. Make sure on your email that you have the email address open at the top, not the nickname of it, because they'll mimic me as a managing director. So sorry to pick on Dan again. Dan got an email from me. He only knew it was not from me because it was Daniel on the email. But if you've got the actual email address open up, because you can nickname it anything, is a really good way of looking at it. And just take your time with it. If you're not expecting it, then you shouldn't be opening it. It's just more learning to take your time with it. And if in doubt, just stop. If even when you get partway through, we get a lot reported in the office where they click the link and then it asks for the 365 credentials, and it's like, well, have I done that before? Why would you want my 365 credentials? It's about just taking those extra why questions, I think. But phishing simulation training is absolutely the way forward with it.
Any other questions? Well, the problem with the mic.
Technology.
Okay, right. I was gonna ask, is human vulnerability a challenge that you think could 100% be overcome in an organization? And if not, what's a good number?
Nothing is ever 100%. And any solution, any tool, technology that says you are 100%, it's a lie. So just don't believe it. From the stats that we see now in engagement with our spoofed emails that we push out as a simulation, we get less than 1% of the organization clicking on it. But I think it's like anything else. Human is part of the layering of security. So when you look at a building that you're trying to protect, you're looking at all the doors and all of the windows and making sure they're all shut and they've got locks on. And have you got a lock on your door? And is there a security camera? And do you have an alarm? and so it's all layering those things up, and a human part is a huge part of it. But I do think that it is possible to really strengthen your potential for risk as investing less money and more time in humans and keep doing what we're doing from a technology point of view. It's not a single action.
Hi there. It's two logical, administrative, and technical controls to try and combat this. In your experience, what do you think is the most effective first step for an organisation to take? Do you think implementing technical controls, technologies to try and combat this is going to give better value for money? Or is it better to try and look at process design policy first? If you're starting from scratch, where do you think the
If
best
you are
value
starting
comes?
from scratch, it's cyber essentials all day, every day. It's a small investment. It's based on the size of your organization and business, and it ramps up. But it is going to look at the most common cyber threats and that you've got the technology in place. I think that is part of it. The other side is that you can go use things like the NCSC's website, Cyber Fraud Scotland's website. There's the police alarm system. There is a lot of systems that are coming out now and training programs that are free of charge. So I don't think one is better than the other, but I think Cyber Essentials as a starting perspective is really going to give you, and it's a badge, you get to tell your entire supply chain, we take this stuff seriously. But go look, if you can't afford to invest in training, go look at those reputable websites because they are full of great guides and training. But I do think it's a bit of both. Sorry that I can't give you a more definitive.
One more question here. There you go.
I have just a question about like new scams like AI and about like phoning and video calls, like you mentioned, Zoom call as well. It's just because recently I got a phone call which was a scam, but they knew my name, which was very realistic. So it's just a bit more advice, like the red flags for the calls and
Hang
for
up.
video calls.
Hang up. The number one advice I can give you, if it doesn't feel right, just hang up the phone. Doesn't matter whether you're the managing director. If one of my employees hung up the phone on me and then rang me back and said, I didn't think it was you, I'm not going to lose my mind. But that, that director that just paid out 20 million, I will kind of lose my mind a little bit on that one. I think it's about something you're not expecting. Like, why are they calling? Why should I take the call? What have they got to say? And it's about doing your own proofing. So, hi, it's the bank. You've got a fraudulent transaction on your account. Can we just log into the system? Thanks for the call. I'll call you back. Hang up the phone. Look up the telephone number from somewhere else. If it's in an email, don't use the links in the email. Don't use the phone numbers in the email. Go look it up and back check it yourself. And if it feels wrong, just hang up the call. Right now, AI and deep fakes and those videos, they're going to come down to SMEs, but right now it's the 20 million prizes that they are looking for. The problem is referring back to the Worm GPT, which is the ugly sister of ChatGPT. She lives on the dark web. She's got no morals. She's got no principles. She does not care. She will do anything you want to do. So they don't have to have such a high level of technical ability anymore. They can go get it from somewhere else. So I think it's much more about trust your gut. If it feels wrong, I guarantee you're not going to get the sack for hanging up to the owner, the MD, the CEO, if you then call back and check that. And I think it is just that they're going to put a sense of urgency and make you somebody who's driving you to do something right now, right now, right now, right now. That's not right, is it? Your bank wouldn't do that to you. Your boss wouldn't do that to you. Just hang up the call and call it back is the best advice I can give.
I think password fatigue's becoming a real topic in the media at the moment, and Apple and others are offering things like password chains and
Yep, and they're great.
choosing the password for you and storing it. I was just going to ask your thoughts on,
So
do you see that as a potential
if
front page media that somebody hacks that and gets everyone's passwords?
it depends about where you store it and how you store it. So I go back to old school, write them in a book, put them in your house. They've got to break into your house, find the book, and then find your account to actually use it on. If you feel the need to store it, do it that way. If you are putting something on an app, either on your laptop or on your phone. Make sure the phone has had its iOS update every time it comes out. Get straight on it, because that's the vulnerability that you're protecting it from. If you've got a note page on your phone, please don't call it passwords, and password protect it. And that's fine too, but it's about where you put it. Make sure it's a trusted source. Make sure you're updating the device that it's kept on and you're keeping that device safe. But they are really cool stuff. I use the Apple one, and so does my head of cyber, so that's probably an okay recommendation. There are ones that you can pay for. It's much more about the device that you've got it saved on and protecting the device than it is the app you're using to do it. So, and don't believe just because it came out the App Store, it's a good one. Look at its history. Go for one of the big ones. Google, Microsoft, Apple. They're investing all the right money, so therefore they're giving you really good tools to store it. And if you're going to do your password, would you believe the number one password is still 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 in the world? Let's not use that one. 3 random words, 4 random words is the best. So I'm standing here now. I've got a man, I've got a chair, I've got a vent, and I've got headphones. They will never break that. It will take them hundreds of years to break it. But making your dog's name with a few letter changes and your date of birth, they are going to get that straight away. But please don't use 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, because that's but still there, still number one, and has been for decades.
Any other questions? Sound advice from Debra. Debra, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.